Ever wonder how a breakthrough idea actually becomes reality? Hi, I'm Susan Lindner, and this is the Innovation Storytellers show, where I sit down with the change makers behind the world's most inspiring innovations to learn how they did it and the stories that help them make it happen. If you've ever had a big idea or want to tell yours in a more powerfully connected way, you're in the right place. I promise you'll get new ideas for how to tell a better story to your audiences too. So let's dive in. Welcome back. I'm Susan Lindner, your host of the Innovation Storyteller Show, where we want to debunk the myth that it's just the great big idea that matters. It's actually the story that encapsulates this beautiful idea that gets other people on board with your breakthrough idea and allows it to travel throughout the organization to get people even more excited as your changes and evolutions and iterations of the great things you're working on come to market. I'm very excited today to have with me as a guest, Rose Hall. She's an incredible leader in the innovation space in insurance. And let's get a little bit more into this world of risk management and insurance. How many of my listeners are actually thinking about proactively calling in risk managers into the discussions around their projects and pilots before they get off the ground? How many of you see risk management as an opportunity to kind of take the bull by the horns and really look closely at where the risks are and think about your risk managers as people who can help you see around corners, see the potential pitfalls, and help you accommodate and shift for those pitfalls before they happen? We're trying to shift people's idea around risk management today from the no team to the yes team. So hold on tight and let's see how we get there. And let me introduce you to Rose Hall. She's an amazing leader who provides innovation leadership via business ecosystems, technology, unique insurance solutions, and enhanced client service initiatives at AXA. Rose is a thought leader and ambassador for AXA and co-founder of the award-winning AXA XL ecosystem. She has 22 years of experience in engineering, construction, risk management, insurance, and expert witnessing. Ms. Hall earned her bachelor's degree from Rutgers University, right around the corner from me here in New York, and her master's degree from Stanford. So thank you so much for joining me on the show today, Rose.
Thanks, Susan. Looking forward to this.
So I just want to give a short shout out to Peter Temes and ILO, the Institute for Innovation at Large Organizations, where you and I met. I've had a lot of guests from ILO on the show, and we had the good fortune of talking about this very topic, risk management, and really beginning to think through the entire risk management mindset when we're innovating. So, but I want to start with you, Rose. How did you get into innovation and risk management to begin with? Because nobody really walks through that front door.
Yeah, that's true. I think there are schools for risk management now, but there weren't when I went to school, and I won't say how many years ago that was. My undergrad and my graduate were in civil engineering, and I went into construction, as one does, and worked my way up through a construction company. And then I was invited to interview for a role and this was Turner Construction. I was invited to interview for a role in Turner's risk management group, which I didn't know what risk management was.
That's a great way to start.
Yeah. And so, but I had been in the operations of a construction company for many years. So I worked for the risk management department at Turner. Our role was to help the operations team, understand what risk was and liaise between the insurers and the brokers and the people building the buildings. And that's where risk management got very practical for me. I had to translate all the complexities of insurance to the field and get managers and executives on board with how to manage their risk, whether it's a piece of insurance, whether it is retaining it and managing it, or whether it's contractually transferring it to somebody else. And then I realized that there's an art to which bucket you put your risk in. And that's how I got into it. And then, as you mentioned, I did a little bit of expert witness work before I came to AXA. And in AXA XL, I came in as a risk engineer, helping contractors figure out how to manage their risk. So on the flip side, on the insurer side of it.
Wow. Okay. So construction is a place fraught with risk, right? I mean, if you start off on the Turner side of your expertise, what were the takeaways from that experience when it comes down to risk management and big civil engineering construction projects?
The profit margin for contractors is staggeringly slim,
Mm.
2 to 4%,
Hmm.
if that. And the amount of risk they take on, not just financial risk, but physical risk. Humans getting injured on job sites still happens, sadly. So the risk is multidimensional. It is not going away. We still need human. We can add robotics into and other innovations into construction, but we still need humans to do the work out there in the field. So the amount of risk they take on for the amount of reward is pretty staggering when you think about it compared to some other industries. So risk management becomes imperative. It becomes even more important than it is maybe in some other industries, because if you don't manage it properly, you may not be profitable. You could, I mean, one job could tank a construction company. Not only that, but you don't want people going home in a different condition than they came to work that day. So it's all about the risk management in construction.
Yeah. And coupling that with ideas around innovation. So tell us about how you made this shift
Yeah.
from the construction world to the insurance world.
Yeah, so coming into the insurance space in AXA, came into the construction business unit, helping contractors better manage their risk, and then helping the underwriters understand what construction risk they were looking at to prepare a policy offering. Right. So bridging that gap again, I'm bridging a gap between a construction operations team and an underwriting team. And the innovative part of that is I would say in a couple years into the job, I started thinking, well, we look at all these different contractors. We see all their best practices. We see their failures. We see their successes. And we are constantly giving them best practices, helping them share best practices. Well, about 10 years ago, I would say the biggest problem with innovation and technology in construction was there wasn't any. Now the biggest problem is there's too much.
Oh,
And
interesting.
contractors don't know what to do. They're like, there's 85 technologies in my inbox right now that want 5 minutes of my time because they're going to solve all my problems, right? So I started to see an opportunity for us as the insurer, the bearer of part of their risk, to say, let us help you with that problem. If there's a way to better manage your risk through technology and through innovative building practices, let us help you do that. And so I proposed, as in the risk management group, I proposed a role to help strategically help our clients better manage their risk through technology. And nobody was smart in this space back then. Even the contractors were like, I don't know what to do with all this tech. So I thought, well, someone's got to get smart on it. Why not us?
Mm.
So we put together a task force to develop the ecosystem that you spoke of. It's a network of curated technologies that we have found to be best in class. And we've negotiated discounts for our clients on them. So when a company like Turner comes to their insurer and says, I don't even know what technology to choose to reduce my labor risk, to reduce my worker injury risk, to reduce my schedule risk, AXA, can you help? And we go, sure, we've vetted 800 plus technologies. Here's the ones we really like, and we get you a discount on them if you like.
Wow.
The idea is we want to get closer to the clients and we want to help reduce the risk. And
Mm.
hopefully, when they do have a piece of risk that we can put a piece of insurance on, hopefully we're their choice. And that's kind of the business model around creating that offer called the ecosystem.
Mm. So that shift of saying, let us look to a partner to actually help us and guide us through this piece because they're focused on doing the thing that they're great at, which is building the thing.
That's it.
Yeah, but seeing around those corners, as I was mentioning at the opening, right, is something not so much. I mean, they're familiar with the human loss and they've experienced it, right? And they know what those potential pitfalls are. But you go halfway through a project with the wrong technology and you're screwed.
Kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
The good news is you're only hosed on one project. The bad news is you're hosed, right? But the good news is you're only hosed on one project. So construction is a great proving ground for trying things out because you can try it on one project, and if it doesn't work, you can try it on the next. You can try a different one on the next. Another thing we put together is a peer group for contractors, so that not every contractor has to try every tech. Put together this peer group, and you come and you go, hey, have you used such and such a technology? What did you think of it? Oh, I liked it for this kind of project, but not for this kind of project. Oh, they did really well out of the gate, but they're not keeping up with their features, or they were slow to start, but they really enhanced their AI in the last year. Like this peer group, we called it our innovators circle, was innovation leaders from our top contractors sharing best practices so they didn't have to pilot each one one at a time and figure it out on their own. And that informed us too. That informed our decisions on who to partner with too.
So when you think about getting started in this, what's the pushback you get from innovation leaders who are nervous or scared or annoyed by the previous no's they might have gotten from risk management in the past? What is some of the pushback that you get from innovation leaders and working with risk management?
So are we thinking about inside my own organization or for the client?
Either.
Yeah. In this peer group, what we found is there's a variety of different, and I'm going to draw an analogy between innovation and risk management here.
Okay.
You can have an innovation leader a token innovation leader who gets hired to go out and innovate. And then they don't get any of the resources, support, or just the resources and support to do
Yeah.
what they need to do. Right.
We call them
But
the 3 Rs, the resources, the runway, and the recognition they deserve.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Let's stick with that.
Yeah.
So you can hire them and they don't get those 3 Rs. And then they go, look, we're innovative. We hired an innovation leader. And the innovation leader's like this. And he's like, I don't know what to do with myself. Or you hire an innovation leader and you do give her the 3 Rs. And you can really have some success with that. But just because you have an innovation leader doesn't mean you're being innovative. And it's the same true for risk management. And it matters where they report too. So I know a lot of contractor companies who have a risk manager who's really a glorified insurance manager, or they have a chief risk officer who sits at the C-suite table and actually has influence over risk across their entire business. Right? Same with innovation. My argument has always been for the chief innovation officer, because if you really want to prioritize innovation, you have to put somebody at that C-suite table. So if you have an innovation leader and they report to IT, all they're going to do is try to put a bunch of technology on it. They're going to fix everything with tech.
Yep.
If you have an innovation leader that reports to CFO, all they're going to do is try to maximize and optimize cost. If you have an innovation leader that reports to operations, all they're going to be concerned with is, can we do it more efficiently? But they're not going to look at safety. They're not going to look at cost. They're not going to look at, so it's,
or breakthrough.
I'm sorry?
Or breakthroughs, right? If you're only looking to optimize what's currently there, then
you're not getting ahead. You're just barely keeping up.
Right.
So, and risk management's the same. I've seen risk managers report to the CFO. They look at everything through dollars and cents. I see them report to legal. All they care about is contracts. I'm being a little cavalier, but if they report to et cetera, right? If you really want to prioritize both of those things, risk and innovation, they both need to sit at the C-suite table and they need to talk to each other.
Amen. So is it your experience that there is a risk management person sitting at the C-suite table too?
Depends on the company. For contractors, I don't think they've gotten there yet, the construction industry, but for many other Fortune 500 type of companies, they have. A lot. I've seen chief risk officers there more often than I've seen in the construction industry so far. So we built this thing for construction, and then the ecosystem we built for construction, and then we expanded it across all of the Americas here at AXA. So all of our top clients, which is mostly like Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies. I think that those types have embraced that concept a little more readily than contractors, maybe.
Yeah, I haven't heard of I haven't had the experience of a lot of the innovation leaders that I work with having equal seating on both levels with risk management at the table. It almost feels like it's called in as an afterthought, just like the lawyers coming in on a contract. What do you think is, when you think about the stories that you've had to tell to get people on board with some of the suggestions that you make, can you give us some insights on what some of those stories might be, like the innovation that you were working on and the stories that you had to tell to compel people to look at risk?
It's funny because most people don't put them in the same sentence, innovation and risk, because innovation is out there trying to be on the edge and happy to fail a few times to find those few ways not to do it before they find the right way to do it. And risk management tends to be extremely conservative. So you have these seemingly diametrically opposed agendas. So what I'm trying to encourage is the concept of risk and innovation being together, not just talking to each other, but being together on purpose to say, okay, we're going to innovate and it's going to create a little bit more risk for us. How are we going to handle that risk? And then innovating can create like a new market for us. It can create a new product. It can create ancillary products around our core business that draw clients into our core business. And what are the implications of that? Do we incur additional professional liability now that we are consulting on certain things that relate to our core business, but it's not our core business, right? And so the idea is to give concrete examples, because inherently, when you say to an innovation team, that looks really cool, have you talked to risk management about it? They kind of go, oh, no. And then risk management has their own bucket of things that they're worried about. And if somebody's like, hey, you should talk to innovation, they're kind of like, oh. It's a distraction for both, and it's a complication for both. But I think there's value to be held in that intersection that I think we're missing.
So can you share with us maybe a project that you've worked on where you get kind of called into the room, and what happened then?
Let's see. Well, I'll say this. Innovation. So in an insurance company, let's go to insurance because I've talked a lot about construction. In an insurance company, we have my innovation group, which is on the client side, helping clients innovate, right? That's my role, is I help clients innovate. Then we have an innovation team that is focused on our own innovation. So policy admin systems and how we do our business innovatively or not.
Okay.
And if I think about, pulling people in to say, hey, can you opine on this or on that? The innovation team that does some of the operations of what we do, they're embedded in IT, and I actually think they should be. But the innovation that I do is more along the lines of our clients want to innovate. How can we help them do that? And how does that help us innovate our products?
Okay.
So, and you asked for an example, so I'll give you an example. Some of our insurance products are required and some are not, right? You have to have general liability insurance. You have to have workers' compensation insurance. You don't have to have environmental or pollution insurance if you don't want to. That's a choice that a corporation will make. So how do we grow our business as an insurer, and decommoditize what we're doing, differentiate ourselves from just here's your policy, here's your terms, here's your rate? We add in services and we add in products, not insurance products, but we add in services to enhance our value proposition so that we're not just valued on on our terms, our policy, and our premium. We have certain lines of business that clients do not need to buy, and they're just going to shop cost. How do we encourage them to go with us, have more lines of business with us? And it's creating innovative solutions for them that draw them in to our work. So if a product line is not doing so well, it's like the question that innovation gets is, how can we build this business better when people don't have to buy environmental insurance? People don't have to buy terrorism insurance. How do we enhance? How do we be better than the insurer next door? Mm-hmm. And the answer is, well, what does the market want? What do they need? What's important? One of our innovations is a bulletproof wall that is foldable for classrooms, and it turns into a whiteboard. Now, this is not technology. This is not software, but it is innovative. Mm-hmm. And it saves lives, and it doesn't change the payout on the policy at all. It's not going to prevent an active shooter from entering a school, but it may save lives. So when you're going to buy a terrorism policy and you look at two side by side, and AXA provides this with theirs, you go, maybe I'll go with AXA.
Right. Because it's also not just about the bottom line.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I think taking into consideration all these other needs of the client, right, that some people aren't necessarily thinking about. They think, well, the client wants to know they're going to be protected. They want to know that there's a payout at the end of the day that doesn't come out of their pocket, et cetera. But what about these other features that make the difference?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where that innovation and risk management comes together. Now, that said, there are times where you could be the kibosh, right? You could be the no in certain cases. And really, to the benefit of the innovator, you would say, right?
Yeah.
You would acknowledge that.
Goes both ways.
Have you had experiences of that where you're like, guys, this idea that you're coming up with is so risky? Ask yourself what the benefits of this really are. Have you had that experience as well?
One of my construction clients is interested in a solution that helps a crane stabilize the drop, right? So you got the crane, you got the drop, the hook, and I'm trying to speak in layman's terms. And it swings with the wind sometimes, and the hook drops down, and a human has to grab what they call a tagline and stabilize the hook so they can hook something on it and get up. You don't want that thing like doing this in the wind while a
Flailing
human's trying to
around.
grab it and hits them in the head. Okay.
Yeah.
So a client of ours was interested in an innovation to help stabilize that hook as it's dropping down so that the worker who needs to grab that can grab something that's stable and solid and dropping down in a really controlled way instead of flopping all over the place.
Right.
But if we ask for a contractor, the contractor doesn't own the crane and they don't operate the crane, their subcontractor does. And all the risk is on the subcontractor because that's how it's contractually allocated. Right? So you hire the crane guy, gal, and you contractually transfer all the risk of the crane to the crane person, as you should. Right? But if we make them use a solution on top of their crane operations that we are forcing as the general contractor, we're taking on some of that risk. Do we want that?
Oh, interesting.
Do we want that? So
Uh-huh.
the risk versus reward. Yes, it's going to make the crane safer. It's going to be safer for the workers, but all of that risk is already transferred to the crane operator. But still, what if they don't do it right? We have this thing over here, this innovation that can help them do that right. But if we require it, now we're taking on some of that liability too. So it's the difference between the contractual liability and the liability that you retain and manage yourself.
So then is the next step to go to the subcontractor and say, hey, we'd like to manage your risk around the crane. And by the way, we have this super cool technology.
Yeah. I don't think any general contractor is going to want to manage a crane's risk, but that joke would play in a construction audience. The crane's a pretty big risk on a construction site. You want that crane operator to own every bit of that risk.
I was just watching, there was a crane accident in New Jersey just last week where you saw like half a truck kind of plowed into a house. It was insanity. Yeah.
A lot of engineering goes into cranes, believe it or not.
I can only imagine. There's so many moving parts, right? Not to mention the thing it's actually lifting.
Yeah.
Massive. So let's take this next step. When you think about what is the future of this intersection, this chocolate and peanut butter of innovation and risk management together, there's so many new risks on the horizon, which is like, yay, more opportunity for y'all, right?
Yeah.
On the risk management side. But certainly there are cyber risks and computational risks. There are environmental risks. And we're now approaching this whole world of AI where we're not even sure what the new risks are that AI could generate for us. But maybe we have some idea. Our listeners are largely folks who have an innovation mandate as part of their job description. What do you think some of the big thinking about offering advice to folks in the innovation space right now and what they should be thinking about in 2025 and moving forward on their potential risk? What should they be thinking about?
Oh gosh, well, you're right. The emerging risks are rampant and they're accelerating faster than any of us have ever seen in our careers. I mean, everything you just mentioned, plus climate, plus geopolitical, plus reputational risk, plus, I mean, these are the things you can't buy insurance for, right? So it's up to us. And I do this when I do a presentation, I like to call innovation is the new risk management. How do we innovate the way that we manage risk going into the future, right? There's a lot more risks. They're coming faster, harder, they're more severe. We all know this, right? Catastrophe. But how do we innovate to be able to address those? Because I think that insurance is the backbone of innovation. So now I'm going full circle on you, right?
Wow. Yeah, I don't hear a lot of people saying that. So how do you see that?
Yeah, I'll lay it on you. So nobody's going to Mars or the moon without failing a couple of times. And they're not going to fail if their balance sheets aren't protected. Right? In some way, shape, or form. Not all through insurance, but insurance is a way of managing risk, and innovation takes risk. So the incredible things that are happening, being able to create a vaccine for a brand new disease in the amount of time that it was created because they could fail a bunch of times because there was protection behind that. right? So I'm just coming up with things that have happened, amazing innovations that have happened recently that you think nobody, I don't care how big your balance sheet is, you're not going to put that entire thing on the line just to see if you can create the next iPhone, right? You're going to have some protection under that, and insurance is the protection under that. But as the risks become greater, weirder, more nebulous, you're going to need more than just the standard insurance that we've had for years and years and years. So you've got to innovate risk management. So it's kind of a full circle. It's kind of a full circle thing, and it's incumbent upon the insurance industry to remain relevant enough to be that safety net so that our society can continue to innovate.
I mean, just thinking about what you're saying, you think about SpaceX and launching a rocket, right? And there's the potential physical failure, right? Of the rocket doesn't take off. Option one, right? So that's trash, destroyed, whatever the $1 zillion investment you made into that thing that doesn't work. But that same software platform used to launch that rocket could be hacked. And now you have a cyber issue, right? That's taking place. You potentially have this thing crashing into a forest and starting a forest fire and creating a climate impact, right? Or at least having like a liability around a community that might be negatively impacted. And you could do grave environmental damage, right, to the oceans or what have you with it. Not to mention, we're beginning to get into the geopolitical side of it, right? Of what's the consequence of now creating a new space race, right? With lots of individual commercial partners and protecting yourself reputationally, et cetera. So you can see how one business, and probably the energy industry, has experienced scenarios like this for decades, right? Encountering all this, but we're getting into new places where you have these multi-layered, multi scenarios that you all have to think about.
And I'm not saying insurance can solve it all, but we have to, at the very least, keep up and remain relevant to cover what we can cover. We can't cover AI, right? You can't say like, there's an insurance product for AI. No, if AI causes a problem, the resulting damage may be covered by this policy or that policy. But like AI is just too nebulous of a thing to say, oh, we have an insurance policy for AI, because you know what I'm saying? So it's all going to fall into a bucket of either an existing policy or something new we can create, but we have to keep up as an industry. And that's how I think we enable innovation and forward progress, really.
Do you think
insurance is making innovation sexy, I guess.
That would be a great debate, by the way.
I wrote an article a little while ago where I argued that insurance is bringing sexy back, but
You're like my favorite insurance nerd, Rose, by the way. When there's been so much talk and a lot of venture capital money flowing into insurtech as well, all different kinds of ways of innovating the insurance industry, right? Based on the technology, the operational side, the financial side. What excites you about any of the insurance technologies that are out there, the startups that are trying to change the insurance world?
Yeah, insurtech I think it's starting to come down a little bit. It was really big a few years ago. Really, I think people saw an opportunity to modernize legacy systems, which totally agree with. There's a lot of legacy systems out there. Connect some of the fragmented data flows, like between the insured, giving information to the broker, giving information to the insurer, giving information back to the broker, giving it back to and where we collect all that data from and how it gets aggregated, and some of the public information that we collect, say for auto, right? You're going to collect motor vehicle records and et cetera, and pulling that all into one platform. There's been a lot of folks trying to bridge that gap of fragmented data, but it's kind of complicated by the fact that you have legacy systems. So you can add a few things in here, but then you're going to have a patchwork. And now insurers are trying to figure out, should they modernize their legacy systems? And then it turns into one big IT project. But I think some companies you've seen the lemonades and the hippos and some of these other insurance companies, tech-led insurance companies that are doing very well, but they're mostly for consumer.
That's true. I was a Lemonade customer, but then I watched my premium soar. I'm just a humble renter. And then to watch.
Why?
Yeah. And then
the reason is because insurance is so complex. And so the good news is it's complex, which means there's a lot of room for disruption, and everybody thinks they're going to disrupt insurance. But the bad news is it's incredibly complex. So a lot of insurtechs who've gotten into the space have gotten out of it very quickly, or you see your premiums rise because they underestimated the losses. Losses can take years and years to develop. So you think first, you're right, a brand new insurance company writes a bunch of premium, you have no losses. Your loss ratio is fantastic. And then you get a little bit of losses and you're trying to figure out where's it going to pan out. Is it going to, and you're guessing all along the way. That's what actuarial science is. I mean,
Right.
sorry, I don't mean that in a derogatory way towards actuarial science, but
Right.
it's an educated guess of where it's going to be. Nobody knows what the future is going to hold. So then you take another chunk and you take another chunk and you take another chunk. And if you have some catastrophic losses and they turn out to be trends, not outliers, now your premiums start to soar and then the company tanks. I mean, that's just how it goes, right? So Hippo's another example. They're my insurer. They're for my homeowners, and they're getting out of California. They're not writing anything new in California. Wildfires, earthquakes, landslides, etc. They realize the risk is not something their book can handle, and so they cull their appetite based on what they've seen in losses. So it's all a guessing game with insurance. Really.
Yeah.
An educated guessing game.
And also why you need a larger institution potentially, right? Well, it's harder for a startup. I remember hearing that Hartford, Connecticut was going to be the new Silicon Valley of the East Coast, given all the insurtech going on maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But not the hippest town in the world, but
no, definitely not.
But I just think about the Gilmore Girls, right? And like that being the epicenter of the insurance world at the time. But the desire to really impact change, because I can remember, and I've had the guests on the show who created that little piece of hardware that goes into your car that allows you to track data, to your point about these kind of mismatched and incongruous data pools that are not able to kind of provide the greatest value. And suddenly you're like, wow, we can ride along with the driver and we can actually monitor live risk, right? And we can determine exactly what policies are and how much we should be paying for premiums. Big, huge shift, right? And not to mention all the other extraneous data that comes with that.
Yes. But the flip side of that is you get an adverse selection. So those who are good drivers are going to plug that thing in. Those who are not likely won't. So the more data you're going to have is going to be on your better risks.
That's right. Because I have a lead foot and I don't want that in my car.
Or you lend your car to your 16-year-old who just learned how to drive. And you see those commercials where they're like, don't mess with my discount. And it's a lot easier to do that for consumers than it is for a commercial, because a consumer is one human.
Right.
One thing to keep track of. And they can grant you their data or not grant you their data. Granting data from a company the size of Coca-Cola or Pepsi is a gargantuan task. You said something earlier I want to hit back on though too. You said that a lot of these startups, when they fail, it's because they need a bigger paper. So what I am seeing in the decline of insurtech, I'm seeing an increase of MGAs. So they're underwriting and they have big paper behind them. And they're underwriting using data, using technology. They have agile underwriting because they are innovating that part of it. They're innovating the underwriting part of it, but they're not having to deal with the administrative part of it or the claims part of it or the balance sheet part of it. And that's a model that I'm seeing getting a lot more traction with tech than insurtech right now.
Right. And for those of us not in the insurance space, an MGA is a managing general agent, right? Being the insurance agent or the broker that works on behalf of the insurance company to manage some or all of that insurance business, right? That's how we're
it's basically like a third party that holds the pen. So if we had an MGA, it would be another company called ABC Underwriting or whatever, and they would be able to run their underwriting operations with our pen. They write on our paper. So we are the backing insurer. We're a large, giant insurer, but they are underwriting in an agile and innovative way, and they're not having to go through all the controls of the larger organization.
And do you think there's still room for more consolidation in the insurance space, large players coming together, or do you think that the innovation comes from kind of continuing to have larger organizations competing, creating these new vehicles with an MGA? What do you, when you look into your insurance crystal ball, what do you see next, Rose?
It's hard to say because this industry, every industry, kind of expands and contracts. We've seen a lot of little startup insurers in the last, I want to say 5 years. And we'll see a lot of them popped up out of COVID, actually.
Right. A lot of the health stuff, right? And like Oscar and things like that too.
So it remains to be seen whether whether that new model will persevere or whether it'll get absorbed back into some of the bigger ones. I don't know. Hard to say.
And do you have a sense that there's an appetite at a large insurer for acquiring startups or I remember I couldn't go to Hartford and there wasn't an insurance accelerator on a corner and an incubator, right? And somebody who was working on some insurtech labs, that were spreading out. Yeah, I'm just curious what you see coming next.
I don't know. There's a lot of focus on innovation in insurance, but like I said, it's mostly on consumer. I would really like to see some stronger focus on commercializing some of the innovations that are happening. I mean, safe drivers save 40% is great for a household, but how do we meaningfully impact all the FedEx trucks on the road, all the UPS trucks on the road? Like you can go one by one, but the real impact is when you're hitting these Fortune 500 companies who are having the most impact on our climate risk, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, I think that's what I would like to see. Remains to be seen whether that will. I do think a lot of these in these small startups are not necessarily insurance companies, but you go to any insurance innovation conference and you go into the expo and there's a million of these vendors. I'd like to see some of them get a little bit more focused and a little less boil the ocean. And then the partnering, I think, will be a lot easier. And I think back to our very first part of the conversation, I think the partnering is part of the strength of innovation. You can't build everything yourself.
Right.
And I'm just talking about build or buy systems. I'm talking about like build or buy ways of doing business models. You can't always invent it on your own. And I'm a big believer that if you see somebody struggling with something similar, or you see somebody doing something similar to what you're doing, my gut reaction is, cool, let's partner with them.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there for the moment, but I have the 3 important hot seat questions that I ask everybody who comes on the show. So, Rose, what is the greatest innovation of all time?
In the prior, in our notes. So,
this is our spontaneous question.
This is why the hot seat. Okay, all right, I get it. What's the greatest innovation of all time? Yeah, I'd have to go with some of the medical stuff. I would say would be like antibiotics, birth control, anesthesia.
We love all of those. As a former epidemiologist, I'm with you.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay. So we are also here to dispel the myth of the one great innovator theory, but rather there are teams of people making things happen. So if you had the opportunity to join any innovation team in the course of human history, which team would you love to have joined?
I'm going to go with something along the lines of like Tesla I mean Nikola Tesla, not Elon Musk Tesla. Or Ford or Edison or something along those lines that just drastically changed the way humans live, the way our society, the forward progress of our society about light and motors and things like that. It's just really, it feels like they call it the Industrial Revolution for a reason. I mean, the world went one direction and then there was this pivot point where we learned how to machine.
Yeah.
And that would probably something in that space.
And I think
maybe that's the engineer in me.
Yeah. And I think the indicator for that is, and we don't go back again. It's game changing when there's no way back. We're not going to suddenly revert to candles, right? We're not going to suddenly revert back to the way things were. Yeah. And my last question is, what's something that really annoys you or something that you wish existed in the world? What do you wish would be innovated that has not yet been innovated?
All right, I'm going to give you a really silly one.
Okay.
Airplane boarding.
Oh, thank you. Yes, please. So do you have a system in your mind already, Rose? Or is it
board back to front? It's just,
Why is this so hard? And it's amazing what privilege does, right? How it changes things. You're like, well, I paid for this ticket and I'm sitting in the front, therefore I'm first. But yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I've just been on too many flights in the last couple of in the last couple of months. But yeah, that's the first silly one that comes to mind. I'm sure if I wasn't in the hot seat, I'd come up with something much more eloquent. But yeah, I'm going for the laugh instead of the intellectual
Well,
answer.
let me tell you, I think there's a lot of empathy around with your pretty much anyone who listens to this show has just sat and simmered
Yeah.
on this, whether on the tarmac or at the gate, wishing somebody would do this differently. So I totally agree with you. Rose Hall from AXA, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. If people want to get in touch with you, how would you like them to do that?
LinkedIn is the best bet. Yeah.
Fantastic. And once again, shout out to our friends at ILO for making this beautiful connection, and really appreciate your time today, Rose. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Susan. Appreciate you.
I truly hope you enjoyed today's conversation. If you did, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe so you never miss the next story that could inspire your own. And if you want to learn more about me or how I can help you and your team to become master storytellers to get your big idea to its finish line, head over to innovationstorytellers.com and schedule a call with me.